So we are Salt City Data Community, and we are a local to Syracuse tech meetup group, but obviously open to all because we do our sessions virtually, but really just here to promote tech and data and any interest in those fields. And to have tonight, we have from the City of Syracuse, we have Craig and Mohit from the API team, and we're looking forward to hear about Open Data Day this year, and obviously anything about Open Data Day last year, but definitely just feel free. You guys should be able to share your screens if you have anything, but otherwise, if you just want to talk about things, that's perfectly fine as well. And then if anybody has intros that they want to do, just feel free to pop them in the chat. But I'll hand it off.
Sure. Mohit, I've got the presentation up if you want me to run through it.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Let's see if this will work. Maybe not. Alrighty, can everybody see?
Not yet.
One sec. How about now?
Yeah.
Are we just showing my screen, or do I have the presentation up?
Yeah,
Yep.
now.
Okay, now I can. Yeah.
Awesome.
A little bit delayed.
Okay, so thank you for welcoming us. Happy to talk about the city's Open Data Day, providing a little bit of background on last year. My name is Craig Witmer. I'm an innovation project leader with the City of Syracuse's Office of Analytics, Performance, and Innovation. Working on projects that support our innovation portfolio of process improvement projects. My involvement with the Open Data Day last year was sort of happenstance. Jason Scharf, who I think we're going to do the best job we can to fill in for tonight, was looking around for a little bit of extra hands on supporting the day. And I've done some event production before, and so happy to jump in. And if you attended last year, I would have been the person that was running around doing things here and there and setting up the food and handing out lunches. So Mohit, I'll pass it off to you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mohit. I recently started with the City of Syracuse in the API team as a procurement transformation project manager. It's big words, but basically I'm working on improving a procurement process by transforming to a e-procurement through replacing paper-based procurement process with software basically. And my experience with Open Data Day last year was I was on the other side. Actually, I was a participant. I also participated in the hackathon last year, and so this year I'm on the organizing team.
Awesome. Hopefully, this presentation, if folks have anything that they're wondering about or they want to ask questions, feel free to jump in. Happy to have a dialogue. So we'll run through, Open Data Day last year. We'll provide an overview of the Open Data portal, talk about opportunities to get involved, and then, open it up to any questions at the end. But again, if you want to jump in, feel free. I'll try to attend to what's in the chat. So our first Open Data Day was last year in November. We had about 130 people covering 9 sessions, everything from opportunities to use Tableau, the synergy between urbanism, AR, and open data portals. Our focus last year was transportation. So we had a number of different organizations that are related to transportation, from Centro to different groups that talked about bus routes and all of those different kinds of things. the hackathon was related to open data and transportation. I believe mostly related to things like bicycle access to vehicle reports, publicly available bus data, that kind of thing. We had about 8 project submissions that were made with the data sets. 3 teams wound up winning, given cash prizes, provided a welcome introduction from the mayor on that. I would note here that, and it's recorded, so it's fine. I still strongly believe that Mohit's submission was the best, in my opinion, but I was not in the judging cohort. So one of the things that Jason wanted us to highlight was Dana's presentation on in situ. So the presentation was on democratizing city planning. It was a really interesting presentation and demonstration because she had set up her business's tool right outside, so you were able to get a better understanding of what potential city plans could look like from a modeling side. Robert, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a 5,000-foot view of what we're doing here. Maybe you can help me understand the stage. So you and Mohit are both employed by the city of Syracuse, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and there's this event that the city of Syracuse hosts called Syracuse Data Day, is that correct?
Open Data Day, correct.
Open Data Day. So Syracuse City hosts this. I'm guessing it's downtown or something. And there's this portal on syracuse.com or something, some website where you can go and see city statistics like crime rates and transportation and all kinds of weird city things. And is that right? That portal business?
All of those things are correct so far. Yes, we hosted it last year at the library.
I missed that. What was that last thing?
We hosted the event last year at the downtown.
Yeah, that's what I was picturing. Okay, so at this event, you're putting the word out there, hey, we're doing this event, and now people who are just around the area or whatever use this portal to do various data projects, and then they present them at this event. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I feel like I'm caught up now. Thank you.
You got it. So again, so in addition to the hackathon that occurred later in the day, we had rotating presentations going on throughout the day. So another one of them was from Andrew Frazier, who works as a transportation analyst at the SMTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Council, focused on one of the elements of the open data portal's transportation elements, which we will talk a little bit more about the open data portal later. My focus is more just on the event. So going through the hackathon winners, first place was a presentation on bike infrastructure, building the project, highlighting the urgency of building comprehensive bicycle infrastructure in the city. Second place went to a team on a demographic disparity analysis on transportation complaints, analyzing information that the city had on community member service requests through See Click Fix, which is in connection with the Sear City line. So if you have any issues related to potential city services, if that's anything from flowing water in the street to traffic light being out, you can report it through Sear City line, and that data is available to use, manipulate, and understand. The records are available to view, manipulate, analyze through the open data portal. And then Mohit, I will let you describe your presentation a little bit more because I think that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, so as Craig mentioned, last year's focus was on transportation. So what I tried to understand was if the weather patterns in the city or in the neighboring regions are playing any major role in the number of vehicle crashes. And for this, I got some of my data from the New York State Open Data portal and some of them from the Syracuse Open Data. And I believe I got the weather data from the weather portal. To my surprise, there was no yeah, sure, there was a few accidents or crashes when they were when the weather patterns were bad, but it was mostly like which day of the week was it and time of the day that was mostly linked to the, or that had higher correlation with the number of crashes. And I think, yeah, and oh god, I didn't look at my dashboard in a while. I also analyzed like the pavement ratings that we had in the city of Syracuse. We have a data set that was going back to 2019. So yeah.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, was it Mondays and Wednesdays had a higher number of crashes?
Yeah, and the times you would expect, like busy rush times during the mornings and the afternoons.
Mohit, how long after your victory here did you get hired by the city, and by what department were you hired?
So I am in the API team itself, so it's the same department. How long has it been? This was in October, November-ish last year, and I started working in July, so give or take 6 months.
Surely it came up at your interview.
What did?
This event you did.
I think they were all, yeah, the folks at API remember me well, I believe, at least the ones who were interviewing me and who I mostly interact with. So yeah.
So as you know, as we're reflecting on last year's Open Data Day, as we're getting into the real meat of planning this year's, just want to talk about a few lessons learned. We're having some nuances this year and last year, even as a public sector entity. There's a lot of restrictions on what you can do for an event. How you can fund certain things, and doing a hackathon as a city entity requires some time and planning, let's say. One thing that really jumped out at me last year, though, for the event was just how much organizations like this played a role in really making last year's event, I think, a great success. It was much more palpable to me that it was an event that the community itself was interested in not only putting together, but also participating in the day itself. Having been to a number of these kinds of conferences, one-day events, etc., it was something special to see the amount of folks that were super engaged and seemed to just genuinely enjoy the day. Another element from last year was that when it comes to planning the first iteration of an event like this, trending towards being overly prepared when it comes to things like making sure that you have lunches available for folks with all different kinds of dietary restrictions makes a bunch of sense. Making sure that you've done all your setup the day before makes a whole bunch of sense. Triple checking everything you can. We were able to, I think, execute a pretty smooth day for folks, with really a lot of people's first times hosting an event like this, in a way that I thought went really well, and really came down to being very, very prepared and listening to some of our anxieties in the preceding, or in the weeks that were before the event. So for this year's event, it is in fact our second Open Data Day. We'll be doing, again, breakout sessions on industry tools using open publicly available data. We'll be looking for folks to participate in or observe the data challenge and the project pitches, again, the hackathon. We are still finalizing our agenda for the day, finalizing the speakers. So through the data.syr.gov link, which is the open data portal, you'll be able to kind of monitor when we go live with the challenge. And then the meetup is going to be available here. Happy to put that link in the chat. And that meetup sign up will get you all set up and registered.
Okay. Yeah, so just to add upon the lessons learned, I just wanted to provide my perspective as well as a participant. I was an international graduate student back then in Syracuse University, and I was just in my little bubble in the university. And I was so happy that I came across this one, because after the actual Open Data Day, I got to meet so many wonderful people in and around the city, especially within the local community, and one of them being the Salt City data community as well. So it did definitely improve my networking in terms of like the data community and the technology community within the city. So that's something definitely to consider if you're into open data or tech or any of these sectors. A wonderful place to meet like-minded people or people with similar interests. Going forward to the next one, so I'll just try to give a simple overview on the open data portal that we have right now. Next slide, Craig. So as Craig mentioned in the earlier slides, the URL to reach the open data portal is data.syr.gov. So this is how it usually looks, and you can see that there's a banner on the top saying that the July Civic Data Challenge has ended recently. So I believe if it's quarterly, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, we do have these quarterly data challenges as some simple or smaller challenges to keep working on and doing interesting projects with the data that is available for the city. And yeah, we do have some sort of gift cards for the winners for these. So if that's something you're into, definitely keep out for the upcoming ones. Next slide, correct. So yeah, some history about Open Data Day or Open Data in general, actually. So the Open Data was adopted during the Obama White House back in 2009. Yeah, I was not in the country back then, so you all might know better about it, but the New York State launched their own open data portal back in 2013. That's something I used quite often before the Syracuse Open Data portal, because I think New York State and New York City also have really good data portals in case you're looking for data sets to work on and things like that. And yeah, Syracuse had our own open data portal back in 2017. And I believe it was called Q's Data. It's in the article that's linked there. Next slide, Craig. So why open data? One of the major proponents for the open data is that it increases the transparency on how governments and the local agencies provide services to the citizens. And it also provides information pertaining to the particular city or a local entity and how well or how bad or in which direction they're heading in terms of demographics, their spending, crime, health data, education, and things like that. And the other thing it definitely leads to through open data and hackathons like these is like to citizen-led to foster better relations with the citizens in terms of letting them play around with the data portal and have some cool projects. Yeah, one thing we didn't mention earlier was that all of the projects from the winners of the Open Data Day and also the data challenges that we have are actually hosted on the Open Data portal. So these are some of the links that we have there. I believe the first one is mine, which is a Power BI dashboard, and the Syracuse's water pipe materials is a YouTube video. Some of them are really interesting, and I definitely recommend you guys to just have a look at it and see if you get inspired about it. Next slide, Craig. So the current status of the open data portal is that we have over 120 data sets right now, 128 to be precise as of this month. And a lot of these also have location-based data. So map or location GIS data, which is around 24, 18 data sets that are mostly crime related, and a few of them are budget, and a lot of them are also housing related data sets. So we also have, I believe, C-Click Fix, if that's something you folks have used. We have a huge data set for that as well. And one more thing to mention is that a lot of these data sets are updated automatically. So you would be finding like the latest updates. I wouldn't say day to day, or I wouldn't say hour to hour, but some of them are at different frequencies, like day to day updates and weekly updates, depending on how much data we are getting in. Yeah, next slide. Great. So again, as mentioned earlier, the homepage for the Open Data Bottle is data.syr.gov. And then we do have an open data inventory that you can look up, use to look up for data sets that you're looking for. I see that there's a chat message from Robert. Let me, Craig, do you want to take that or? Yeah, I'll let Craig handle that. So we do have this open data inventory where we have a bunch of data sets that are arranged according to different categories. So next slide, Craig. So some of them, for example, are like neighborhood related data to see if we how neighborhoods compare against each other in terms of a few metrics, and the other data sets are related to housing or infrastructure. Like for example, potholes is one famous data set that we have. I believe it's the first data set ever in the open data portal from Syracuse. We also have the data for the sorry, I'm blanking, for the athletic houses around Syracuse and parks, for example. Yeah, next slide, Craig. So once we figure out what data set we want to work with or are interested in, you can actually see the data set and like you can visualize it and you can interact with it up to some extent on the data portal itself. So here you can see like this is for the Syracuse public art dataset, which shows the list of public art exhibits within the city that are installed on the city properties. And then if we go to the next slide, correct, you can also see that from this you can see that you can do some sort of changes to the data within the browser. So for example, you can filter the particular addresses you want to look at or the types of the arts in this case. Next slide, Craig. Another way to interact with the data is to, this is again a few more filters on the data set that you can apply within the website. There are a few ways you can interact with the data sets. Next slide, Craig. One of them is to use an API. So just a quick check, like how familiar are the participants with, for example, programming, or what, just wondering what sort of background are we all from?
And then if anyone's not comfortable speaking up, feel free to, you can post in the chat as well. But Mohit, just like on a general scale, I feel like we normally have a pretty like decent mix like for attendees here, if it's folks that are privy to like a certain language or working in like a couple different environments normally. But I think that like we discussed in previous sessions like general like API usage, but never, you know, really done any tutorials. So if people have other experience outside of it.
Yeah, I remember something similar from my previous attendances of the meetups too. But the point is that there's something for everyone at every skill level, for example. So API, I believe, is for someone who is more well-versed with programming or are into programming. So there are instructions on how to use the data. Like there are a few tutorials that I'll go into looking up online. But Craig, next slide. So if you're familiar with programming, API is one option. Next slide. Yeah, this is all on how to use the API, for example. Next slide. And these are a few other examples that we have along with the tutorials. So for example, if someone's familiar with front-end work mostly, you can use the Open Data Portal, particularly with React. If you're just interested in visualizing or for business intelligence purposes, you can use it just with Tableau, for example. And if you want to get more out of the data sets, you can probably end up using Python or R as well. Next slide. One cool thing about the Open Data portal in Syracuse is that we take requests from citizens or anyone for that matter of fact to request a new data set that they want to work with or have fun with. So if you have any requests as such, like if you look up for a data set on the Open Data portal and if you don't find anything, we do have a request form on the portal. Please feel free to just fill up the form and get in touch with us. We'll try to accommodate the request. Robert?
Hey, you saw that real fast. That was like a record time to see your hand raised. Here's a question for you. Can you think of any, and what, if they are, data sets that were requested and then provided?
Since I joined just 2 months back, I don't have any in my head, but I believe that we do have a frequent request. Jason Schaff is the one who keeps tab on that. Craig, do you happen to know any?
One that springs to mind for me is road temperatures. I'm not certain whether or not I was under the impression it was finally getting approved. I know that there were some interesting and novel concerns that different departments had about releasing that information, but I think that's one.
So somebody went to the website, said, I would like information about city road temperatures. The city said, huh, we have that already somehow? And then they put it up there?
Mm-hmm. Well, that is the process that it normally goes through. There's a review process to ensure that, for example, anything involving disclosures related to lead, I don't know if it's lead paint or lead pipes, but some of the data had to be scrubbed of, for example, resident personal protected information. So the data request comes through, there's a process to ensure that we're not disclosing any personal private information or those kinds of things, and then it's released through the Open Data portal.
That's remarkable. So Syracuse City has all this information. Probably Syracuse City has some information on just paper forms that are in an office. Syracuse City probably has other databases that different departments have that are not connected to anything. And then someone in the city who's aware of these, or at least asks around about them, is overseeing migrating them to this one central public facing location. And
so just
community requests.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, a lot of what prompts our outreach internally is through community requests, and I think Jason does a really excellent job of being plugged in to groups that know about open data, are interested in learning more about open data, helping navigate the city's data governance committee keeps him super clued in. So I would give a hat tip to Jason for really pushing and managing the open data portal very well.
And I'll go back to listening after this, but it could be people that want to start a small business. It could be Micron, could be whatever. It's like, you know what, we really want to see this.
Yeah, all different kinds of uses and business uses for open data.
And just to add to that, we do have, for example, if we do have a data classification policy, like how confidential particular data is in terms of, for example, resident privacy and things like that. If it includes healthcare data, of course, it can't be released even though we get the request. So the data sets that we catalog do have some sort of data classification policy. We rank them if they're if they can be public facing or not. So of course it depends on that too. Yeah. Anything else, Robert? Or
I'll ask you questions for 3 hours. You better move on.
We'll be glad after this then. So going ahead, you can, like I mentioned, a lot of projects are actually hosted on the Open Data portal, and this is the link to access them. So feel free to have a look at the projects other people have done. So yeah. And next slide. Again, if you've used the Open Data portal or the data sets that the city has provided, and if you've made something interesting and you want us to know, please reach us out. Again, there's a different form for that. And we'd be happy to host your project on the data portal. All right, then I guess that's the last of it. Yep. Open for any questions and comments.
Okay, here's a question. In addition to the questions I have in chat, I don't know what we'll have time for. I wonder, of all the things that were requested and then provided, which of them, what's the smallest number of requests you had for any one? And maybe that's something Jason knows, but like I would be curious in certain things, but if I go on there and fill that out, it's probably literally just me asking for it. And is that even worth the bother? Because no one's ever going to do it for one random person.
I would, sorry to jump at that. This is not a bother. This is absolutely something that cities across the country should be doing. It should be something that data that we have that is publicly available, that we know the community could look for, we should be responsive to that. So absolutely, if there's something you want or you're interested in, you should be reaching out and you know, it's kind of one of those things where, you know, if you ask a question in class, sometimes you're asking a question that a whole bunch of other people, you know, want to know the answer to, but you might be the only person who's willing to raise their hand and ask it. So, you know, if there's something that you want to know, you know, maybe it's not today or tomorrow that somebody else is interested in that, but next week, week after, that's something that could really help them do a project or make an insight.
I wonder, Craig, if you've ever played SimCity 4.
Not 4, 2.
Okay. Well, 4, the graphs got much more intense. 4 was the most mechanically complicated SimCity. They kind of dumbed it down after that. You're building a real life equivalent to that interface.
It's an interesting way to think about it. Yeah, I mean, like, I've been, I think, incredibly impressed with how the city has made this a priority. I'm just sharing some links out in the chat, and then Robert, I want to come back to the questions that you ask in the chat.
I'm trying to answer those as well.
Total heuristics. I'd say 50 to 60% were students, mostly university from a combination of SU and Lemoyne, mostly. I think that was the vast majority. I'd say 30 to 40% were folks in the industry or professionals. So that's anything from programmers and developers to analysts and sort of strategy folks. And about 10 to 20% were other, of just folks who are interested in going to an event in the community and learning about stuff. And then on
I quickly wanted to add, not all 150 participants or attendees were actually participants in the hackathon. If you meant that, Robert, I actually don't remember how many were actually there for participating in hackathon. I think the hackathon might have had maybe 20 to 30 participants, maybe.
How many teams is that? If it's 20 to 30 participants, is that 20 teams?
8 teams, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, so a lot of them were teams of several people, and there were a few individual participants as well, like solo participants.
So it's like 3 teams from the schools and like 3 teams from companies and 1 or 2 teams from people that are just in between and trying to get a good foot in the door.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was describing statistics for participants overall.
Oh, I was extrapolating. Okay, I think I was just guessing there.
Yeah, you're good. No, that sounds about right though. Mostly students and some other folks.
I was thinking about, so how do people find out about this event?
Robert, for that one, if you guys don't mind me jumping in. So we try to work, well, there's obviously like the promo that comes from like the City of Syracuse, whether it's on like LinkedIn or all the different social channels. But I remember like last year, like we had like the different like flyers and things like that we promoted like from links from like Jason, like on like our LinkedIn. So kind of through the different channels for the different tech meetups. I know there were events from like some of the other like local tech meetups had kind of like redirecting to like as Craig shared earlier, there's like one main like meetup link for registering for the event. But I know there's also outreach for like the colleges as mentioned, but then trying to work also with some of the local schools to get, you know, folks interested or that might not know about it otherwise, because like a high school student might not be on LinkedIn. So definitely the city's, at least like my outside opinion, it seems like looking at all the different kinds of channels of getting people aware of the event to get a different like mix of folks to be interested in it, or at least be able to know about it.
And I just wanted to add that as a participant, I actually interacted with someone else who was at one of these speaker sessions. Since it was in a public location like a library, it was just someone who walked in from the library and were interested by what was going on. So that was a fun interaction for me because they were really curious on what's the data, how does the city collect the data, and what are they really doing with it, and what scope do they have with that, and that sort of things. So yeah.
Here's just an anecdote for you both as administrators is when I asked my questions in the beginning, then I was thinking, oh, I have 4 data analysts on my team. I was like, oh, we could maybe take like a field trip day to go to this and see what people are doing. But then I saw it was a Saturday. I'm like, oh, I don't know if people want to, I don't know if I want to have people, because I could see it being a work function that people would go on a work day from different companies around Syracuse. And then I thought, if we're spending time fiddling with a dashboard, I'd rather we fiddle with a company dashboard than the Syracuse City dashboard. So I don't want to make a team for it. We'll just do a team for our own stuff. I didn't know it was city data specifically when we started this.
So using the city data is a prerequisite, but it doesn't limit you to just city data. So you don't have to only use the data from the data portal, but you have to use it. So for example, my project from last year was like, I used some data from the city portal, some from the state portal and things like that. And there was another participant who had their own company and they had their own software. They were more of demonstrating their software, but using the city data.
That's
like,
cheating.
Well, it still counts because they were meeting our expectations of what we set as a rule for the competition. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a real David and Goliath moment there.
I mean, if it counts, there's also free lunch and coffee if you want to.
Yeah.
Tempt your colleagues.
Lunch is good. Company's good. Yeah, I would encourage participating if it's not necessarily for a work thing. There's a really cool community that I found of colleagues who are interested in data that I did not know existed in Syracuse before the event. I mean, like, I was always wondering, like, who is Jason going and presenting on Open Data Day to? And then seeing the community all out, kind of really meeting and exceeding what we expected the turnout to be, was really, really great.
I feel like I'm gonna have to go just to see who I run into.
Yeah, that's part of it, right? Like, you bump into people, you say, hey, you're hanging out. I mean, I don't know, it's a good day in the library.
Yeah.
And then you had a question about put into use by city administrators. So the hackathon, we had good representation from senior staff, mayor, and a number of folks who work with data and then in our department who came to the event to check it out and just participate. So they all saw each presentation. They each kind of walked through the presentations. So there's that one component of it, and then Jason regularly presents open data to the data governance committee and provides sort of an overview of different data sets to a citywide group of administrators.
Got it.
Sorry, Robert, I just wanted to address your question on like the dashboards that are submitted to by the participants, if they belong to the city or if they become the intellectual property or anything like that. I don't know if we have a policy regarding that, but purely my opinion personally is that it shouldn't and it's not, because for example, if you go and look on our projects page, you can see that we also mention who is actually submitting those projects, and we provide like their contact information or their LinkedIn profile or things like that. Since it's using public data and it's I don't see a reason why it'll be an intellectual property of city. And I'm also not aware of any scenarios where the city administrators have used these dashboards for like city business, and that's not something I'm ruling out, but it hasn't happened so far. That's definitely a good point to see how we would handle this scenario. Like, say if we were to use a participants project or a residents project and use it for city business. But I'll take that with me.
I'm not a lawyer, but I strongly believe that there's no city taking of the IP or claiming it. It's all open and public. Yeah, I think the theme for the next one, which will be announced soon, I think there could be some really great presentations that could have a pretty nice impact on policy.
So then I don't know if does anyone else have any questions? Amberlyn, if you have anything, if you feel free to ask, or if you want to post in the chat, that works too. But otherwise, if there's nothing else, Craig and Mohit, thank you so much for presenting to us. No, I speak for myself, very excited for this year's Open Data Day, but definitely keep up the great work with, just building the resources for open data in the city. And like you said, it's really awesome to see how much has just progressed in even the past year for the Open Data portal, and awesome to always see that work going. So super excited, but thank you both for presenting to us tonight.
Thanks for having us, Ashley. Looking forward to seeing you at the Open Data Day.
Yeah,
and hopefully the others too.
Yeah.
Hope to see everyone there. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak, and happy to chat more. I'll leave my email in the chat, and if there's anything we can put you in touch with, if it's Jason or whomever, happy to make that happen.
Awesome. And then I'll make sure I'll post the links that you guys shared as well for the event and everything else in the event meetup later as well.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.